Test, test. Oh, that's much better. Yeah, it was picking up all kinds of loud, crappy noise. All right, so I am videoing this. So in order for me to put it online without warnings or have to bleep things, try not to curse.
Oh, okay.
I know, that's about it though.
Well,
And don't say anything that you might want me to move because I don't really like editing. Yeah. Okay, here we go. All right. Looking around, nobody's around. We got 100% RPM, all the gauges are green, everything's happy. Except the dogs that are barking. Joke. Let's hope I didn't. You got gophers too. Alrighty then. And away we go.
Well, you don't really need to hear Cyndi and I chattering for 30 minutes, so I thought I would cut out our soundtrack and I'd put in some narration. Now, Cyndi lives in a place called Wenatchee Heights, which is basically a flattened ridge that overlooks the city of Wenatchee. And as we come over the ridge here, over the end of this ridge, you'll see Wenatchee stretched out below us. It's off in the distance there. That's the Columbia River. Along the way, we were commenting at some of these houses here that are right on the edge. Some of them are pretty cool. Wenatchee Heights is mostly orchards, a lot of cherries, mostly cherries I think. There might be some apples up there too. It's about 1,000 feet above the level of the city. So now what I'm doing is I'm descending down over Wenatchee. I'll try to make the narration as interesting as possible. But as I said, this is about a 30-minute long flight, so I'm not going to talk for the whole time. And I'm also not going to dub in music, because a lot of folks say they don't really like music. So we're coming up now on what I call the South End Bridge. It's actually the, I just forgot the name of it. That just kind of figures. Anyway, that's a car bridge, and then the next bridge is a pedestrian bridge, which also has a pipeline on it. Wenatchee has this amazing bike trail that does a loop. It's on both sides of the river, and it crosses at that pedestrian bridge. And it's used mostly by bikers, but also folks that are jogging, walking, occasionally roller skating. And it's all along the river on both sides, so it's really, really pleasant. So this is downtown Wenatchee on the left, and East Wenatchee is on the right. This flight was in August, so the water level had started to come down, although it is still pretty high here. The Columbia River is dammed up in multiple places, so it basically is a series of lakes. I don't know if this particular lake has a name. It's actually a pretty small one. Behind us, not in view at all in this video, was the Rock Island Dam, which holds in this water, and we're going to be coming up soon on the Rocky Reach Dam. Over on the left is a park. It's the Walla Walla Point Park. There's a swimming beach there. It's a great place to launch kayaks. There's tennis courts, there's softball fields, there's all kinds of things there. It's really nice. And then off on the left now you're seeing the confluence of the Wenatchee River, just peeking in there. Beyond that would be Confluence State Park. There are lots and lots of parks along the river. And you can see the bike trail pretty good here on the East Wenatchee side right now. It will cross over the other bridge there that's coming up, but there's also a leg of that trail that will go all the way up to the Rocky Reach Dam. There's another park up there. So the purpose of this flight was to bring some artwork, some of Cyndi's artwork and some of my jewelry up to a gallery in Twisp. Normally this would be about a 2-hour drive each way. It's about 30 minutes by helicopter. And I didn't even go direct. I went mostly direct, but not exactly direct. So now here on the, right below us on the right side of the river here, there's a lot more orchards again, and then on the left side is a kind of industrial area. And this particular part of the river here is kind of like a wind tunnel, so it gets a little turbulent in here sometimes. It really wasn't bad at all this day. It was a really nice day to fly. Now the footage you're seeing is coming from what I call the nosecam, and it's a nice unobstructed view of what we're flying over. And the sound is also from that camera. So you'll hear a little bit of wind noise, and you'll hear the rotors turning, and you'll hear the engine a little bit. It's really not the best soundtrack for helicopter noise because of the amount of wind, but it's the best I could do. Unfortunately, the camera that normally records the helicopter sound died, of course. It died in flight. So we're coming up now on the Rocky Reach Dam, and that pipeline that you see with water coming out of it is actually a small fish, a baby fish bypass. It actually enables the baby fish that are coming down river. They get somehow funneled into this pipe, and they get shot around the dam so they don't have to go through where the turbines are. It's kind of a weird thing. This dam has a really nice museum in it, but it's closed right now for renovations. Right now being 2020. I think it opens up again in 2021. Well, this park up ahead of us right now is Lincoln Rock State Park. It's got camping, boating, boat ramp. And then somewhere around here is Lincoln Rock. It might be on that little island. And I think that island had a fish hatchery on it at one time. We were going to be flying right over where it was. On a really nice day like this, when the sky is blue, the river is just an amazing shade of blue. So there's some houses on either side. There's also more orchards. There's always orchards in this area. Again, apples, cherries, pears, but mostly in this area it's mostly apples. Wenatchee is the apple capital of Washington State. They grow all kinds of varieties of apples. Now this particular part of the river, when the water is low, you can see the roads that were alongside the river before it was dammed. So if you look carefully in here, you can see a little bit right now on the right. You see those roads under the water, and later on you'll see some on the left. So what happened is there were roads down there. They dammed up the river. I think that particular dam went in the 1960s, but I could be wrong. You can see one over on the left now too, that long straight road. Those roads were on land, and then they dammed up the river. The water level rose, and the roads went underwater. So when the water level is low enough and you're flying, you can see them. If the water level is higher, you don't see them. Obviously, you really don't see them from the ground either, from the roads on either side. So some nice houses along here. This guy on the left has 2 houseboats there. I don't know if you could see them. And then orchards and houses and orchards, and some of the houses have docks. They're really nice. Now if you notice, the water here is a little bit kind of textured. That's because there's a little bit of wind on it, but if you look up ahead you'll see it's smooth as glass. That's because there's no wind on it. When you're flying you can often tell what the air is going to be like that you're flying in, whether you're going to be in turbulent air or smooth air, by looking down at the water. And a lot of times the pattern of the waves on the water, or the ripples on the water, will tell you which direction the wind is coming from. This is called Lake Entiat. Entiat's the name of a town up ahead. And again, that's held in by the Rocky Reach Dam. Now in this particular flight, I fly up the river for quite a distance, and then I cut up a hanging valley and follow that valley over Lake Chelan, and then we climb up through the mountains and drop down into the Methow Valley. So all that is up ahead still. You can see some fire damage, and actually that you can actually see smoke later on. So over here on the left is the Entiat River. Makes a sandbar as it comes out. There's some really good hiking and camping up the Entiat River. You can go up a road there for about 30 miles. There's a bunch of campgrounds along the way. And Antiat City Park is on the left, and that park was just recently renovated. Within the past 5 years, they added a whole bunch of campsites, and they fixed up the boat docks and really fixed it up nice. And then that's the town of Entiat on the left. In the water, you can see the reflections of the contrails up above. It's kind of neat. Again, you can see roads down on the left under the water. We also get this weedy stuff in the river. We call it milfoil. I don't know if that's the real name or not. But it's nasty stuff. It gets into your engine, boat engine. It's kind of a pain in the neck. Some places along here you can see where there used to be orchards that are under the water now. On the right is Daroga State Park. They have camping on that little island there. And there's a boat ramp, of course. And then these are the nasty wires that go across the river. You can see there's a whole bunch of them. Always safest to fly right over the towers. This particular area here has a ton of orchards, and it looks like they tore a bunch of them out. The ones you see here with covers on them, those are shades to protect the apples from sunburn. So they will cover up acres of fruit trees with shade structures. And then they take it all down at the end of the season. And then the white that you might see underneath some of the orchard areas, that is to allow the sunlight to reflect off the white and back up onto the fruit to help the fruit redden, get color. And they do that for reindeer cherries too. But this is in August and all the cherries here have been picked already. If I remember right, this was a Wednesday. I know it was midweek. So that's why there's really not too much activity on the river. This part of the river actually gets quite a bit of activity. And there's a lot of fishing also, but that's normally by the dams. I've done a flight where I flew all the way up from Wenatchee to the Grand Coulee Dam following the river. It's a really great flight, but it's long. The river is actually really windy, as you can see here, but it's over a long distance, it's really, really windy. So now here's where I'm making my left-hand turn, and I'm going into what's called a hanging valley. It's a valley that was cut off by a flow of water, so the valley kind of hangs there. And there's, again, orchards up here, and then there's some houses. And you're going to see the terrain change to be more forested. That particular road will take you to 25 Mile Park on Lake Chelan, which I've actually never been to. I've actually never driven on this road. I've flown over it a bunch of times, but I've never driven on it. Cyndi was telling me that it's a really bumpy road. If you look down, you can see the shadow of the helicopter on the left, right at the bottom of the picture. This particular area had a lot of fire damage a couple of years back. I think it's especially on the left-hand side of the valley. And you really can't see it too well in this picture, but a lot of trees burned down. We get horrendous fire seasons sometimes, not all the time. We've actually been really lucky the past couple of years. So what a lot of people don't realize is that we're on the east side of the Cascade Mountains here, and this particular part of Washington State is actually very dry. It's like high desert. So when the rain stops, when the rainy season ends, which is usually in the spring, things get dry and the grasses turn yellow instead of being green. If I had come through here in, say, May, it would have been completely different down on the ground. It would have been really green. See, there's more and more trees down below. Now, if you look up in the top, kind of on the right, you'll see a body of water there. That is Lake Chelan. And we're coming up on Lake Chelan now. Lake Chelan is a really long lake. I can't remember how long it is. I'm thinking 30 miles. And we're down near the bottom of it, near the lower end, which is where the town of Lake Chelan is. And we're going to cross over by Manson. The town of Manson is on the other side. And if we were to follow the lake up to the left there, it gets really, really narrow, and there's no roads on either side beyond a certain point. And if you follow it all the way, it'll take you up to Stehekin, which is a town at the north end of the lake, and only accessible by either air or boat. They've got ferry service that takes people up there. It's actually a really nice vacation destination. It's part of the North Cascades. Lake Chelan is just a really beautiful lake. The lake can get a little treacherous, though, especially further up. And I have a very small boat, and I haven't had it in here, mostly because I've heard stories, and it's really not worth it. So this is the town of Manson, and again, more fruit trees, and also vineyards. On both sides of the lake are vineyards. This is a really big wine production area. There's got to be, I don't know, 30 or more vineyards in here, wineries in here. So it's a nice destination if you like to go wine tasting. and try out some Washington State wines. They're actually really good. And these little bodies of water on the right, those are all little lakes. You can kind of see that where the green ends, you know, where the orchards and vineyards ends, it gets kind of rugged up there along the lake, the big lake. And the roads, there's some dirt roads that go up a little further. There's some boating campgrounds, or campsites I should say. There's a town called Holden Village, up the lake a little bit. It used to be a mining community. I think they might be mining again. I don't know what they mine for. And that's also accessible only by boat. So I'm going to be leaving the lake behind. We're flying alongside of it for a little while and then leaving it behind. We're going to go over the mountains that are in front of us and then drop down into the Methow Valley. It's funny because it seems like we're going in slow motion, or that I've slowed down since earlier in the video, but it's really only because I'm higher up. The higher up I am, the slower it looks like I'm going. I'm probably doing about 100 knots here. That's my normal cruise speed. The nose cam image is always interesting to me because it seems like it just floats back and forth. Really mellow. Nice and smooth though. I'm very, very happy with it. I want to take this opportunity to thank the channel members and the Patreon supporters for supporting the channel, chipping in every month to help buy new equipment like cameras. I just bought a new GoPro Hero 8, which hopefully will replace the camera that keeps dying on me, and also get better quality pictures. I'm hoping to do more 4K video instead of just 1080, and that camera will make it possible to get good images. And the channel members and Patreon patrons really help out with their contributions. I want to thank them for that. Now all the roads that you see below us now, those are all just dirt roads, just carved into the hillsides. And some of them do go over the tops of the mountains. If you follow them as we're going along, you'll see some that go over. But we get to a certain point and there's just roads, there's no buildings in there, there's no homes. This is part of the National Forest, I'm pretty sure. So when I'm flying in an area where I've got mountains and valleys and, you know, goes back and forth, I don't follow the terrain by descending and then climbing and descending and climbing. I pretty much pick an altitude that'll take me over the top of the highest point, and I stay up there until I've crossed that high point, and then I can descend down to where I'm going. And that's just because it doesn't really make any sense to descend and climb and descend and climb. So that's why I'm so high here. I see up ahead I've got to cross over that ridge. So I'm staying high enough to cross that ridge. Might actually be climbing a little bit. And those roads don't look so bad from the air, but I tell you, when you're down on them, they're pretty gnarly. I haven't driven my Jeep up in this area, but after seeing these roads, I really want to give it a try. I don't think I would do it with my truck, though. You can see the switchbacks on the left there. And I believe that this is the highest point on the whole flight. We didn't get very high. I don't even think this was 4,000 feet. And you can see an area here where it's been burnt out in the past. In fact, the lines that you see might be fire breaks that they bulldozed in. But the fire wasn't recent. The North Cascades would be off to the left in the distance. You might be able to see some snow-covered mountains up there. Snow-capped mountains. Now, if you look carefully on the right, you'll see what looks like a cloud, kind of low. That's actually smoke. When we did this flight, there was a fire up, I believe, at Omak, in the Omak area, and the smoke had blown down into this valley. Fortunately, we're going to go straight till we hit the valley, and then we'll kind of make a left, so we're not going to go into the smoke. Originally, my return flight was going to be to come down the whole valley along the Methow River, and then join up with the Columbia and follow the Columbia back from there, or maybe go over the Waterville Plateau. That was the original plan. But when I saw all the smoke, I just didn't want to fly through it. I didn't want to fly in it. So we wound up coming back almost the same way we went. And I might make a video out of that too, I'm not quite sure yet. It's basically the same as this, but backwards. So I don't know. And again, you can still see those roads. There's one off on the left there. It's kind of neat the way the valleys are connected by these dirt roads. But it would take hours to go from Lake Chelan to the Methow Valley along one of these roads. It would probably be about a 4-hour drive. And I'm doing it in about 10 minutes, 15 minutes tops. We didn't see any wildlife along this trip. We were really pretty high up for most of it. But in the middle of the day, you normally don't see too much in terms of wildlife. If you look down on the right there, you'll see a big patch of green. That's along the river in the valley. And you can see straight ahead the valley stretching up. We're descending now. You can see where there's some fire damage right in front of us here. And I'll be descending over all these little hillsides and ridges to get down into that valley. Our destination is a place called Twisp. It's a little town It's got some shops and galleries and nice health food store, great bakery. So it's a nice kind of a destination for tourists, I guess. Kind of artsy. And then beyond it is the town of Winthrop, which is larger and more of a tourist destination. And this whole area that I'm flying up to, Twisp and Winthrop and Zama beyond it, that's a really, really popular cross-country skiing destination. They have an amazing number of groomed trails, miles and miles of it, and they groom them, every 2 or 3 days. When I would stay home for Christmas time, I used to stay home in the wintertime rather than go south, and I would go up for Christmas. I'd go up cross-country skiing, and it would be basically deserted because, holidays, everybody wants to do their holiday things, so there would just be, I don't know, a handful of people there. It was great. So that's the Methow River that you could see in that valley. It's kind of winding back and forth. It's a much smaller river, of course, than the Columbia. It feeds into the Columbia, though. And you've got orchards, you've got some row crops up here, farming. You could see the pivots, the little half circles and the whole circles. Those are created by irrigation pivots. It's a very pleasant drive up that road. So if you follow that road up from the Columbia, you turn at Pateros, I think it is, and you just follow that road up. It takes you through all these little towns along the river, and then it goes up into the North Cascades, up to what they call Highway 20. And that particular road is closed in the wintertime. In fact, I think they just closed it yesterday. This video was done in August, but I'm actually editing it in November. Trying to catch up. So it's closed in the wintertime, but it's beautiful in the autumn, all of autumn colors. And there's a number of lakes up there, and there's some camping. It's very, very nice place to go in the summer or the autumn. I guess in the springtime too. That pivot looks like Pac-Man. Anyway. So as you can see, I've descended quite a bit now. Just a gradual descent until I get down to near where I'm going. And I'm looking for the airport. And what's funny is that when I looked at the video from the cockpit where you can see Cyndi and I sitting side by side like in the beginning of this one, the camera died right before we landed the helicopter, and I honestly do not understand why that happened. But that was just another reason to use this footage instead. You can see the road is now on the right side. It goes back and forth. There's bridges, various bridges across the river. This is actually a really, really great place to live, the Wenatchee area, because all this stuff is within driving distance. Twisp is, I think, 80 miles away, which is, it's a nice day trip. There's some wineries up here, but not very many. There's one in Winthrop, I know. And there's also a regular ski resort. I think it's called Sun Mountain. And that's near Twisp. I think you turn either at Twisp or Winthrop. One or the other, I can't remember which. So at this point I'm starting to look for the airport. I've never landed here before. I've actually never... is that true? I've never flown up here? I think I've flown up here once, but I never landed up here. So this is my first time landing at this airport. Didn't really know what to expect. We were going to be met by Cindy's friend who was going to drive us into Twisp. It was a little bit too far to walk with Cindy's artwork, which is made out of metal. At some point along here, I think I missed it. There were a whole bunch of people standing in the river fly fishing. That was kind of funny to see. We must be getting close because I'm descending. Oh yeah, I see it. It's straight in front of us. You could see the hangars. Now, when you're landing as a helicopter, at this point I made a radio call, which of course was cut off by the fact that the video died. You make a radio call, make sure nobody else is in the area. If they are, they respond. There's no tower, of course. And because I'm a helicopter, I just go direct to landing. I don't enter a traffic pattern or anything like that. So I'm going to descend. I'm going to cross over the runway somewhere in the middle of the field, and I'll land by what looks like the pilot lounge. So there's the runway. You can see it, runway 28. I'm crossing over this taxiway, then the runway. I'll land over on that green grass. And you'll start to see my helicopter's rotor blades in the picture. So at this point I'm slowing down, descending, slowing down, flaring a tiny bit. And I'll come right into the ground. I think I was originally going to point at the building, but then I realized the sun would shine right into the cockpit. So then I turned. And that is it. I hope you enjoyed the flight. I hope my narration wasn't too crazy or boring or whatever. And if you're not a subscriber, subscribe. See more of these. Thanks very much for watching. Take care. Bye.